Mindful Breastfeeding Mom, and today we are talking about a really important topic, low supply when breastfeeding. And so I am curious if you have experienced this or if you have been told that you have a low supply when you're breastfeeding. And for those of you that are watching live, go ahead, do hashtag live and where you're watching from and how old your baby is. And for those of you watching the replay, go ahead and do hashtag replay. And as well, I'd love to know where you're watching from and how old your baby is. And today, if you're not familiar with mindful breastfeeding, we are here to support moms who are breastfeeding and also modifying their diets to feed baby. So there is a group of us that has to do that. Not everyone does, obviously, but there are certain things where modification in diet can definitely help, like colic, eczema, reflux, certain signs of allergies, etc. So if you are interested in learning more about that, I invite you to our group. I'll drop the link below at the end of the video, but it's called Mindful Breastfeeding, and you can just look us up on Facebook, and we're there to support each other. So now let's get started into the topic, low supply. And also I want to mention, if there's anything that really jumps out at you that was new information, go ahead and put it in the comments. It helps you remember it, and it also helps our community and other moms get the information as well. So often moms that are breastfeeding are told that they have low supply, and that can be for a number of reasons. So sometimes you may think you have low supply because baby is latched on for a really long time, or they pop on and off, they seem frustrated at the breast. Sometimes as far as like pumping, some moms will pump and they'll only get a little bit, but they're really mostly exclusively latching baby. And so they may worry that, oh, I was only able to pump an ounce, baby's not getting enough. So there's multiple reasons why sometimes you may think that you may have low supply. And what I want you to know is that that's often not the case. So I want to give you some hope, and I do want to give you some facts, some things that you can confidently know what to do. And that's the key, is that when you have this knowledge and information, you can be confident with your decisions. You can be confident when speaking with medical providers, and you know what to ask for, you know what questions to ask as well. Hi, Amelia. So what we want to do is we want to look at objective things, right? Because there are many reasons why baby may be latched on for hours at a time sometimes. There are also other reasons why maybe baby is frustrated at the breast and pops on and off. So we want to rule out other things as well. The first fact is that I want you to, so this is the other thing I'll mention before I go into the fact, that sometimes your pediatrician may say, oh, baby isn't gaining enough. They're not gaining enough weight. And so that's a valid concern, right? However, did you know that there are different growth charts for breastfed babies versus formula-fed babies? So that's the first thing that I want you to confidently ask your pediatrician, is which growth chart are you looking at? Are you looking at a growth chart for a breastfed baby or for a formula-fed baby? Because that can make all the difference. With formula-fed babies, their growth chart is different. Formula is a little different, so those babies actually can gain more. Versus a breastfed baby, it's okay if they're smaller, and it's totally normal no matter what you're feeding baby. So that's the first fact, is that there are different growth charts. So when you, let's say a medical provider does tell you that, oh, baby isn't gaining enough, the first thing I want you to ask is, what growth chart are you looking at? Are you looking at a breastfed baby growth chart or a formula-fed baby growth chart? And then we want to look at overall picture, right? So with newborns, we want them to gain their birth weight back quickly, so that's important. Also, at the same time, when an older baby, right, sometimes they can change percentiles a little bit. So when we talk about percentiles, right, a baby will be born at a certain percentile. So let's say the 50th percentile, just to keep numbers even, right? And they'll usually drop weight a little bit after birth. And then we want to get them back to birth weight in a certain amount of time. And then we want baby to gain steadily at their percentile as they grow and as they get older. Now, a little bit of variation. Oh, cool, Melissa. Yeah, there are different charts, and that can really throw a lot of moms off. So it's important to really make that distinction. And sometimes the, medical providers, they're busy, they're in a rush, they're stressed. Sometimes they don't even notice which one they're looking at. And so that's great to be able to ask them and bring that to their attention. And so when we're looking at percentiles, it's okay if baby drops like a couple percentiles here and there. We want them to hover around a certain percentile overall. And of course, if you are concerned, definitely, consult with your medical providers. So let's go back to this example of a baby that was born in the 50th percentile. And let's say after a month or two, they drop down to the 40s. That's not super concerning. They are still staying close to that. If your baby was born in the 50th and then they dropped down to the 20th, then that would be a concern that they're not gaining enough. Again, pediatricians are, and your medical providers are really important to consult with all this. This is just general information I'm giving. However, let's say an older baby. So let's say around like 10, 11 months, they're becoming more active. Maybe they're crawling, maybe they're cruising or starting to walk, right? So same thing, that same baby that was born in the 50th percentile, maybe they wavered between the 40th to the 50th. For a couple months, and then they hit this phase where now they're developing and really becoming active, and now they might dip into the high 30s. So sometimes, again, when they're exclusively breastfed or primarily breastfed at that point, if they're not getting too many solids, sometimes there may be concern that your supply is low. At that point, the chances are super low because your supply is regulated. And at the same time, they're now becoming more active. So a little bit of a dip when that active period comes on is almost normal and expected as well. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So that's kind of looking at growth charts and percentiles. Now, so I hope that also, gives you some confidence to ask questions, because you can now go to your medical provider and say, well, actually, they just learned how to walk and they're running around and cruising everywhere. Does that play a part in it? And then you can have this really empowered and confident conversation with your medical providers, which can make all the difference, because all of a sudden those medical providers start paying attention to you and they are going to listen and see. You can have a much different conversation. So I'm curious if you have experienced that in other cases, but also if you feel like that would help as well. So the second fact I want to go over is diapers. So especially with the little guys, maybe they are gaining and maybe there are some concerns. So you want to actually track wet diapers. So what that means is when baby pees, you count that as a wet diaper. And poopy diapers do count as well. However, just a pee diaper counts as a wet diaper as well. So baby, ideally, you want to have at least 6 wet diapers in a span of 24 hours. So again, there's some variation with that, but that's the minimum. So if baby isn't getting 6, then you want to get some support. You want to get ideally a lactation consult to see what's going on. And lactation consultants, there's many different kinds of them, but there is a standard called an international board certified lactation consultant, and they are really the highest standard. So they can do a full assessment evaluation, and I really highly recommend them. No matter where you are, they are around you. They're in other countries as well. And if you need help finding anyone, let me know and I can give you some resources to help find someone highly recommended close to you. There are other lactation consultants which are great as well, but those you would need like a personal recommendation from. So that's the second fact, is you want to look at wet diapers, because if baby is staying on a percentile, maybe they're still fussy at the breast, maybe they are still popping on and off, but they're getting enough wet diapers, then it's not your supply. There's another factor going on. There's something else in the picture there. And so I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that was something new or if you were aware of that, because some moms aren't aware of that 6 diaper a day. That's looking into dehydration, which again for the little guys can be serious. So we want to make sure that we keep an eye out for that. And that's especially true when they're sick or when they're like refusing the breast for X amount of time or whatnot. And then the third thing we want to look at that's really important is also a weighed feed. So if you are still not sure if you have a low supply, again, this is where a lactation consultant really comes in handy, and a weighed feed any lactation consultant can do. So what it is they would weigh baby, usually naked, and then you would feed them for however long it takes, and then they would weigh them. So that way they can see how much milk was transferred in that time. And it's a really cool method. So this way you can see, is baby getting the milk? Is the milk being transferred? And that's another way that you can see, objectively if your supply is low or not. So sometimes you may do multiple weighed feeds. There's all sorts of different things that the lactation consultants can do with you as well. So now we go into support, right? We know that maybe baby does have enough wet diapers. Maybe the weighed feed looks good, or maybe it doesn't. That can also play a fact as well. And you're looking at the right growth chart, right? So now where can you get support? What kind of help can you get? So again, the lactation consultants, especially the IBCLCs, the international board certified ones, they can absolutely help you with latch, with making sure that baby's oral function is transferring milk well. At the same time, there are other places for support. So sometimes allergies and intolerance and absorption is an issue with baby gaining weight and all these things. So that is where sometimes we can reach out to the pediatrician, etc. And sometimes it can be confusing to know where to turn. It can be confusing to know what may be the issue. It may be confusing to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? To kind of like dig through all the information, right? And so that is where sometimes just having a second set of eyes or having someone talk through things with you can be really helpful. So, pediatricians, again, medical providers, they can be really rushed on time, and you may not feel heard. That's something that I personally experienced at the beginning with our providers, where I would address, bring up a concern, and they would dismiss it. So that is something that I'm helping to fill in the gap, because sometimes we just need another opinion. We just need, something to help kind of process the information. So for that, I do offer guidance calls. You are more than welcome to ask for more information. I can always send you that. And they're really affordable. They're ways that we can get to know each other. We can learn about baby, what your struggles are, what your challenges are, and then we can address and come up with a plan, essentially. Action steps is what I call them, so that you know confidently what to focus on and what to do as your next step. At the same time, there are so many other aspects to breastfeeding in general. I think we can all, agree to that. The emotions with it, the stress, how it affects our whole life. So things like sleep, how it affects our relationships, how it affects, our stress levels, our ease through the day. Amelia wrote something there. Dziękuję, Emilia. Thank you. Yeah, and it's so much more about our experience. Going through this, it can be a challenging journey. Just becoming a mom can be a challenging journey. Breastfeeding on top of that is challenging. And then for those of us that are modifying our diets, it becomes even more challenging. And so I am offering different levels of support, because I know everyone is in a different place. And I want to invite you to a really, really affordable way that you can get support for the holidays. And so I call this the holiday refocus. For those of us who are modifying our diets in order to breastfeed baby, to keep us and baby safe and healthy, we experience a lot of dismissal, a lot of criticism for what we may be doing, right? So I'm curious. Thank you, Diane. I'm curious if, you have experienced this. I know in our experience we have, where people would say, oh, just have a little bite, a little bit of this, or a little bite won't hurt, right? And at the end of the day, it really is the safety and health of our children, and it absolutely can make a difference. So with the holiday refocus, really we're focusing on including joy in your life without worrying about the food. And so if you have experienced that, where, maybe you feel isolated because everyone else is experiencing and having this great meal and you can't have X, Y, or Z, you can't have the cheesecake, for example, or just the stress level of trying to keep baby away from the food if they're more mobile. There's so many different aspects to this journey that we're on. And also how to communicate with our friends and family. That didn't come out right. Our friends and family, because sometimes it's just a lack of understanding how important this is and how really it is the safety and health of us and baby. So if these are things that you would like some help and support with, the Holiday Refocus is a really affordable way till the end of the week. It's only $47, and with this you get 6 weeks of support. You get help with building your holiday game plan for every holiday that you have. We go through step by step so that you really don't miss anything, so that you're prepared, you know what to do, you know what you're going to be eating, you have your whole game plan planned out. And then we go into how to communicate with friends and family. We go into all sorts of things, especially for joy, because that is what my real mission is, to have you experience joy this holiday season. And not even just like for the holiday itself, but through the whole season. And these are strategies that you can use every day going forward. So really it's a whole like shift, a shift in how you approach things and how you look at things. And it's a transformation that will happen by the end of the 6 weeks. We look at your passions, we look at true joy and happiness, because that's different for each of us. So we want to rediscover you, mom. At the end of the day, after becoming a mom, I think many of us feel like we lost a part of ourselves. And this way we can start to bring some of that back. We can bring back some of our passions and really experience joy every day. That's my goal for all of you. So I will drop some more information below with the Holiday Refocus. It's going to be really life-changing. So if you are interested, feel free to send me a message or comment, Refocus, and I can send you some more information directly. And this way, also the important piece is that it's a group of moms doing this together, so we can support each other. And I can see some great friendships, forming out of this as well. And together we go through the process, we support each other, and we share our wins and helps each other celebrate. That's really the cool part. So you get a little cheering squad just for you. And at the same time, we're going to give lots of tips for things to look out for so that you can keep you and baby safe as well. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Safety is number one. But also we want to make sure that you are experiencing joy and happiness as well. That's going to be number 2 on the priority list. So if on a daily basis you feel stressed, worried, overwhelmed about food decisions, how to communicate, with friends and family, you feel like they don't understand you, you may feel like they don't respect your decisions, your choices, then I really encourage you to look into the Holiday Refocus. It will absolutely change the way you approach the situation and how you communicate it. So that is everything I have for today. Please let me know if you have any other questions. I'm happy to answer those. And again, I invite you to our community if you aren't a member yet. It's Mindful Breastfeeding, and then I'll drop the link in the comments after the video is done as well. And I think that's it for today. I'm wishing all of you and your little one all the best, and I will see you soon. Bye.